There is a lot of descriptive language we use in fighting games that will conjure up baseline assumptions about a game's competitive viability, with infinites being the most obvious example. Saying a game has infinites in the modern era has become synonymous with calling a game broken, but it simply isn't the case because not all infinites are born equal. Infinites take a lot of different forms, so we need to define these forms and narrow down our discussion a little bit for it to make sense. It sounds wild to say, but it's a common misconception that all infinites lead to a dead character. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is an example of this not being true. Quite a few characters have them, but not all will kill. If we look at the classic Iron Man Infinite, although the majority of the damage is coming from the Infinite, what normally kills is the super at the end. This is because the game contains an infinite protection system. Everyone has a value of 80 that each hit will deteriorate, and once it hits 0, you automatically go into fly screen and can't be hit. This is hidden information though, so normally when a combo gets to around 50 odd hits, people will end with a super. Skullgirls has a system inspired by this, where if you hit the same attack too many times, the opponent will get access to a burst where they can escape the combo. To note, this is an insanely reductive summary of the system, so take that with a pinch of salt. The other side of this coin, which we're talking about today, is infinites that will kill a character. They are functionally touch of deaths, which is a comparison I want you to bear in mind throughout this video. The easiest examples of these sorts of infinites can be found in games like X-Men vs Street Fighter with literally any character, or say Guilty Gear Missing Link with its charge cancel infinites. Honestly, there are lots of these examples to be found. Now, I like all types of infinites. For me, they don't by default make a game bad, but I understand that this is something that's come with years of playing games with them. If you're a modern fighting game player, however, their mere mention is probably enough to prevent you from trying a game. That being said, I think even a player with the most conservative attitude towards balance probably likes at least one kind of infinite, and they just don't realise. Earlier I made a comparison to Touch of Death combos, because they do the same thing, and we have quite a few of them in modern titles. Right here is a Touch of Death with Soul as a punish for the opponent mashing. What makes this okay and say a Storm Infinite in X-Men vs Street Fighter not okay in the eyes of someone unwilling to play a game with worse balance? Well, it's frequency. This Touch of Death is conditional. It's done in the corner, it's done with a counter hit, it costs 2 bars of meter, and it requires them to not have burst. Realistically, you're not seeing this combo every game. Hell, you're probably not even seeing it every 50 games, and this is entirely due to the amount of variables required to make it work, and as a consequence, the defender has more options to avoid it. If I'm a chip player mashing DP on wake up without burst, and with the knowledge that the opponent has full meter, that's my mistake, and I can admit that and probably avoid it most of the time. It is simply a very extreme case of risk reward. It gets more frustrating, however, as a player, the more frequently I'm getting Touch of Death. That's why things like Virgil comebacks in Ultimate Marvel vs Capcom 3 eventually lost a lot of their hype. We can apply this attitude to infinites. To me, the most reasonable and balanced instance of them is actually found in Skullgirls, and I'm of course talking about the Double Snap Infinite. If your opponent calls an assist badly and you hit both the point character and the assist, you can snap them both out. The point character then leaves the stage and the assist will be vulnerable to an uninterruptible infinite. This is a glitch originally from Marvel vs Capcom 2 that got brought over, and it's great. The last thing you want in a versus game is to be able to badly call assists and the punishers not matter that much. It adds a huge amount of consequence to a system that is generally very safe. This safety is why you don't see it that often. You can protect your assist, simply block and not get your points snapped out, or just call them at a range where it isn't a threat. It also functionally does work to balance the character's punish game in this extreme situation. Once again, it is that infrequency that keeps these moments hype. If we saw it every match, it would be an issue, but we don't. So when it pops up, it's a signifier of a grave error or an amazing play, both of which we can spotlight with the use of Infinite. It's an issue with how we take normal language used to describe ideas in a game, turn it into a negative buzzword, and in the process remove all the necessary context actually needed to give us an accurate understanding of a game's balance. Dizzy in the game Guilty Gear Xrd can do an instant kill off her throw, so the game must be bad, right? Wrong. She can do it if she has 100 meter and if the opponent is below 20% health. Its purpose is to get around burst, and it happens so infrequently that no matter who you are, it doesn't feel broken. This logic can be applied to a lot of mechanics in fighters. Touch of deaths, long combos, crazy mix-ups, unblockables, and even infinites can be fine for all audiences if they're gatekept by enough conditions. I can say with my whole chest that I like all forms of infinites. I will probably die with X-Men vs Street Fighter continuing to be one of my all-time favourite games, but I admit it is a harder argument to make for people who grew up with heavily patched games that are generally very flat in terms of character strength and weakness. However, don't do yourself the disservice of getting caught up in the linguistical nightmare that is fighting game descriptors. Go explore these titles with your friends, see how you land these infinites and if you can do them yourself, because you might end up with an appreciation for the balance of something you once thought was broken. Because no matter how crazy a concept might seem, if it's rare enough, you might not even get the chance to be annoyed by it.